University students in Nigeria will stay at home for a further 2 months as their lecturers have voted to extend their warning strike. What hope is there of salvaging Nigeria's tertiary education sector?
Also on the breakfast, Nigeria has been plunged into darkness for the second time in 2022 following the total collapse of the national grid. What is happening to the nation's power sector?
And we have incisive analysis of the headlines in today's national dailies.
It's the breakfast. Welcome right here. It's another beautiful Tuesday, and it feels really great as always to be back on your screen. We're just going to be having a great time, having amazing conversations as we proceed in the course of the show. I am Messi Boko.
And I'm Kofi Bertels. It's another day, another time to discuss very important issues of national concern. And Mercy, hope you had yourself a great birthday yesterday.
Yes, of course I did.
All right.
Thank you to everyone that reached out.
The office has been filled with so much cake and finger food. Now we can afford to have. All right, it's a great day. Of course, issues to talk about. We're looking at the power sector, education sector ahead. We have the ASU chairman of in the University of Lagos, Mr. Ashiru. He'll be here on the program. A very interesting conversation ahead, so you should not change the channel. But let's start with a look at the stories that have been trending. And Mercy, of course, the first one, yesterday we heard about certain Abakari who was said to have had some money, good amount of money as a public servant, about 1.4 billion naira passing through his account. And if you check that 1.4 billion naira, that is quite a huge amount of money. We also heard that his second in command, his deputy at the IRT, Intelligence Response Team, had about 2-point-something billion naira also passing through his account. So all that amounted to over 4 billion naira for both of them. And one began to wonder why. Of course, you had a serving public servant, police officer, controlling such amounts of money. But the drama was not just about the amount of money that the NDLEA said that Abakari had gone through his hands or through his account. The wife of the embattled police officer, erstwhile Super Cup, Ramatu Abakari, slumped and collapsed at the lobby of the Federal High Court in Abuja yesterday. It's sad because, we don't want to hear anyone going through a dangerous situation, a life-threatening situation at all. Kiari and the school defendants were in court yesterday for the hearing of their bail application before the trial judge, Milord the Honorable Justice Emeka Nwite. However, the incident of Mrs. Kiari or Mr. Kiari's wife's collapse it occurred after the judge had adjourned the suit till March 28. He made the judge adjourn the suit to March 28, and he hit that gavel. Of course, the woman collapsed. And the videos and pictures of her, you can see on your screen, being rushed out of the Federal High Court chambers. I hope she's safe, and I hope she's well.
Well, as much as it's important to pay attention to this concern, because if you look at the thoughts that's been put out right there, the reaction is that this is also another gimmick. People feel like we have a pattern where people have to always, it's usually at the courts where they collapse, you have a smile on your face.
You're laughing.
No, I mean, it's a serious issue. So it's possible that, she fainted. And that's because with all of that you could hear, I mean, listening to, it's a hearing. That's number one. It could be so much for her, to handle at a time, and of course it can happen. But we can't actually categorically tell. First of all, we were not even there. Secondly, we're not medical practice. You can't even tell what it is. But the reason why people
2 more weeks in detention, of course.
Yes, 2 more weeks in detention. Now the reason why, if you look at the conversation in different spaces, if you look at the conversation the Nigerians are having, it's because it seemed that we always have a pattern where there seemed to be a pattern where you have those who have been or those who are suspect or probably they're facing trial or what have you, would always want to faint. And so everyone is now asking, I'm sure that's not the original script. You know how Nigerians can be. The script is that maybe
I'm telling you,
appearing
they'll say this is another
should have
Nollywood.
yeah, that's what they're
Yes,
saying.
yes,
No,
yes,
that's
yes,
it. So you could say that no one is empathizing. No one's saying, oh my God, it could have been so much for her to handle. It could have been a lot of emotions going there. I mean, your husband, and some people are saying, oh, you were not thinking about it when, you know, the monies were flowing. You know how we already put the judgment already across, not necessarily. So it's a lot to, you know, deal with right now. But like you have raised, we're hoping that he's okay, whatever the case is. And we're also hoping that it's not also another drama.
Well, talking
Nigerians
about dramas and talking about it not being another case. So let's just take a trip down memory lane. On July 20, 2020, if you remember, Prof. Keme Brady Kumo Ponde, the then acting managing director of the NDDC, demonstrated.
I was watching.
We all watching.
I was watching.
Someone just came and tapped me. Boy, go TV, go TV.
No, me, I was watching.
I had to go and check. He demonstrated with marginal success the art of fainting, in degrees during a legislative probe into the management of funds of the NDDC. Now, also, if you remember, when the former PDP chairman Bello Aliru was accused of pocketing a 2 billion naira from the Dasuki Largesse, remember Dasuki Gate, or Dasuki money as they say, he turned up in court in a wheelchair, and so did former spokesman of the PDP, the great Chief Olisa Metu, when he was accused of cornering 400 million naira from the same Dasuki Largesse. He also turned up in a wheelchair. He would later upgrade to turning up in court or to court in a stretcher. How to stretch him to court. Of course, we can't forget Senator Dino Melaye. Now I know he's everywhere. He's boisterous and he's singing Ajeku Yanoje and all that. But if you remember, Dino Melaye also turned up to court in a stretcher, if I'm not mistaken. Either was a stretcher or was crutches. I need to check. Also, former presidential advisor Kingsley Kuku pulled a similar stunt. Then we also remember former Adamawa State Governor Bala Ingilari, who turned up to court in a wheelchair, and former aviation minister as well, Femi Fani-Kayode. People have forgotten, but Fani-Kayode had his own stunt as well that he pulled in court. Fayose, if you remember, he turned up to court in a wheelchair and a neck brace. Do you remember that neck brace that I think it was a protest or something, and people began to ask, what's a neck brace for? I mean, if your neck is broken, you should not be able to walk, but Fayose was able to do a protest with that neck brace and then turned up to court the next time in a wheelchair and a neck brace.
So, but some of
the list goes on and on.
No. So it brings us back to the fact that I looked at the comments. I looked at how Nigerians have reacted to it, and the people are saying, no one is even empathic about it. And everyone seems to be like, oh, this is not the actual script. There's supposed to be another script. But aside that conversation that's actually going on, don't we think that it's important that we begin to have the medical team on standby in our courts right now to ensure that we...
Are we sure we don't even have them?
Are
we sure we don't have them?
No, because in cases like that, to revive, resuscitate, and what have you, these persons, maybe chest freezers, just bring them back.
If it doesn't exist, they should be.
There should be, because it feels like it's becoming, a pattern. But I really do not, that did not disrupt the hearing. However, that was not the report. I'm not sure that disrupted the hearing. I'm sure the hearing would have been...
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah. It didn't disrupt the hearing.
Yes, it was just as the trial judge announced the adjournment for a further 2 weeks and hit the gavel.
So it's possible that that could be, so much for her to grapple with.
Absolutely. That's what I was about to come to, that, whilst the drama of the whole, thing and people not believing that it's real, even with Professor Ponde's situation, you never can tell. I saw one that happened in the United States of America where they sentenced a lady, I think they found her guilty, and she slumped right there. They had to resuscitate her. So we never can tell. All we can hope is for the safety of these people. Yes. All right, another one making the rounds, this one is an exclusive, so-called exclusive report that I saw first yesterday. It was first announced, I think, by the Daily Trust newspaper. And they said that Vice President Yemi Oshibajo has informed President Muhammadu Buhari about his presidential ambition. The man hasn't said anything to me, neither has he said to you or to the public, but this paper was the first to report yesterday. Exclusively, they said that their sources tell them that the vice president has informed President Buhari about his presidential ambition. And this continues the new culture in Nigeria's political space of informing the president if he wants to be president. I do not know if it happens in other climes where, if you want to be president, you have to go see Joe Biden and say, Joe Biden, I want to be president. I don't know. But with this 2023 election, we've seen members of the All Progressives Congress flock to Aso Rock Villa to tell Mr. President, I want to succeed you. So that's an exclusive one. Then from the Daily Trust, they said they have credible sources that said this. Of course, you look at the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has been a part of that. He's vice president. And the question that some people have been asking is, with the failures, rather, of the administration, they have recorded successes and failures according to the comments out there. But with the failures of the administration, can he detach himself from the performance of this administration? Don't forget, yesterday we also had one trending story where the Redeemed Christian Church of God released a memo informing that it had created the Department of Politics and Governance. And that memo was leaked to the public, and it sent tongues around the nation wagging. Oh, this is meant to campaign for Osinbajo. The church now had to release a press statement saying they wanted to embark on voter education. Can you take that to the bank? Well, your guess is as good as mine. But this is a situation as we speak. And also, another angle to this trending story is the fact that the so-called political benefactor or leader or ally of Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who is credited for Professor Yemi Osinbajo's rise to become Nigeria's vice president, he's credited for that, is also going to be Nigeria's next president. I'm talking about BAT, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So will this turn the political allies into political adversaries? Will this turn the political allies into political adversaries? Well, time will tell. But it'll be a very, very interesting one for the APC ahead of the 2023 general elections.
Very interesting, like you have mentioned. But first of all, we also have situation. I mean, if you also talk about the former Lagos State Governor, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he's not declared to Nigerians. He's not told Nigerians that he intends to run.
He says he has not told Nigerians.
That's what he said.
Yes.
And then
he told Mr. President.
He's told Mr. President.
But he's meeting with people all over the place. Are they not Nigerians?
We can actually see that very
clearly. Are they not Nigerians?
And you know how it is that people will constantly say, oh, Nigerians are asking me. The people are asking that I run. So it's like you're being coerced. Okay. You're being forced. It's not like you want to do that. But looking at it, everyone has a right to express, to vie for any office as long as you're not a criminal and you meet, the constitutional requirement. And so it's within his purview. He's acting within his right. But like you have mentioned,
are you sure criminals or former criminals have?
Oh, but so that's another thing entirely, because we live in a climate where it's almost difficult to have the law implemented to the latter, and so it's another conversation. But however, within the ambience of the law, and if you follow the Constitution, he has a right to. Even though usually there's always this, I don't know if to call it a pretense or the guise. People come under the guise that, oh, Nigerians are saying, come run. People are asking on you to run, and so he feels like, okay, finally I'm being pressured. Why don't I run for president, and why don't I become the governor? But you have raised some valid question. It's going to be a serious tussle. Now, and if he's made his declaration, let's not also forget that words on the streets would also say that the president has his candidates, and one of them they had mentioned is the vice president. And you want to look at it logically, you begin to say what's really going on. He's of the APC, and of course, if you were talking about the issue of zoning, you look at the Southwest and what have you, and one would say, okay, there might just be continuity, same political party, but that's within the party. So I think that the APC has a lot to grapple with. You also have some other persons in the same party where you're hearing that they have intention of becoming president, even though they have not categorically mentioned. One of them is Rotimi Amechi. You also have...
Has he informed you?
He hasn't. I'm just telling you that
but
these
there
are
are
what's
reports.
on the street.
Yes,
there are
yes,
reports.
yes,
I'm not
indeed.
saying he said that.
And
no one has actually said
he's
that. You also
eminently
have,
qualified to be president of Nigeria.
So
he's from the south.
You have people.
He's also from the southeast or south.
So my point is, you have a lot of persons, in the APC, or those who might be aligning with President Muhammadu Buhari, Godwin Emefiele. You have the likes, even though he's saying, some people are saying he's not really categorically come out to say that. So there's a lot of confusion going on. But if that's going to be the case, then if that's what it is, it has to be that the party would have to give him the permit.
Yeah,
and,
but we cannot divorce this. Of course, also we must mention the whole. It's the turn of the southeast crowd. It's a turn of the southeast crowd. Look at all these names who've been mentioned. Some of them are not from the southeast. So this is a very important, point to raise. It remains to be seen how this will go in terms of the geopolitics of Nigeria. Next one, Alan Oyema is the chairman of... he has said that, yesterday he said that if care is not taken, in the next 3 days, today now make it 2 days, Nigerian Airlines will have to pack up. Why? Because of the scarcity of this thing called Jet A1 or aviation fuel, and the high price of Jet A1 called aviation fuel. In fact, the high price is not the main issue because they just buy it and then deflect the price to the customers, but they can't even find it. Now, he's asking the federal government, and he said it's so desperate, it's a desperate situation, and he's asking the federal government to give licenses, issue fuel importation licenses to the airlines so that they can import fuel into the country to save themselves, to help themselves. So, if care isn't taking likes of Air Peace, Max Air, and figuratively, the president isn't on ground. The airlines are shutting down. The president isn't on ground. We have the university lecturers striking. The president isn't on ground. We have complaints of insecurity. 18 soldiers and 6 policemen killed in Kebbi State. The president isn't on ground. So with all these people asking, where is Mr. President? Why isn't he here? For a nation as big as Nigeria, Africa's largest economy, the most populous black nation on earth, to have his aviation sector grind to a halt, they're asking, will this current administration leave Nigeria like this? This is a big question. So we're hoping and we're watching to see if we can't fly again in the next 2 days.
Well, it's on the high. We constantly understand. I mean, the fact that, the Nigerian government has said what is actually happening, because the world is a global village, you can't take that out. So the current crisis or conflict, you want to call it, between Russia and Ukraine is affecting the entire globe somehow, however we want to look at it. Even though we are saying, how did we get ourselves to this point? Let's even imagine that we had the capacity to refine our product. We won't probably be speaking all of this, grammar and be in this situation. Not necessarily saying that this product would be very free or would be free, or even
like they
cheap.
say, even in Freetown, nothing is free.
Nothing is free. But I mean, the availability of the product, because you remember this period where Lagos is always the epicenter of almost everything. I mean, the heat of the fuel scarcity. People have money to buy the petrol, but they can buy. That's the worst thing that can happen. The fact that you have money, you can buy, you have the power to purchase, because that's what demand is about. And then you can't even buy it. It's really sad. So, but we know that nothing is really scarce in its real sense. I mean, there's nothing that's scarce. Scarcity is man-made, and that's what happens, and this happens. So it's just the politics that happen. And I'm thinking that, being a capitalist and being humans and being who we are, we would always want to take advantage of the situation. Just maybe the airlines are thinking this is also another opportunity for us to press down our demands, have this happen. But whose detriment would that really be? And I'm just saying, it's also another angle.
That's a big maybe, but
not necessarily. Yeah, it might not be a big maybe. I'm just saying that there's a possibility. Yes, that's okay, but it's also a window for you to press home your demand. What are we talking about? These people in business, they need to make profit, but it's such a difficult time to be a Nigerian and own a business. It's such a difficult time.
It's not easy with the cost of diesel going up, and companies not having electricity, so they have to keep their gens running all through. These are not the best of times. Maybe Mr. President will be back soon to around the country. That's the much we can take right here on the trending segment on the Breakfast Plus TV Africa. We'll return with more. Of course, we look at the stories of the front page of national dailies in After Press when we return. Please stay with us.
Life can be fun and rewarding, but it also comes with some risk. As in business, you win some, you lose some. And that's why you need to be wise in the choices you make. It's like placing a bet. Again, you need to be wise. Wise in choosing an innovative platform with the highest market options and highest odds ever. That's why Winners Golden Bet, the leader in online, in-shop, virtual, and live sports betting, gives you enhanced platforms that offer you the best chances of winning. For betting on live soccer matches, live dog races, and virtual games. Winners Golden Bet is your best bet. Instant payment of winnings guaranteed. Play online or in any of our numerous shops nearest to you.
Hey guys, be wise. Play on Winners Golden Bet.
Winners Golden Bet, the wise choice.
Sees it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Vicky November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
On Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. On the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Welcome back to The Breakfast and Plus TV Africa. It's time for us to take you through the pages. We call it Off the Press, and we have Chris Mwandu, who's in standby. He joins the conversation in no time. Good morning, Chris. It's good to have you join us this morning on the papers.
Good morning, wonderful people. I hope you had a nice night.
Yes.
I hope you have power supply. You have lights where you are.
Okay, how are you charging your phone?
Right now, anybody who touches my power bank will have a fight with me.
They will Stay with me. It's nice to be here this morning.
Yes, we thank God.
All right, so it's good to have you join us for the paper review. We'll start off with the leadership, as always, looking at the banner caption. Now, the bold caption says, states crumbling under security, economic crisis, governors warn. That's a bold caption. Underneath, you have several riders. It says, lament VAT, stamp duty administration, politics around Parry Club refund. Skewed federal system has eroded states' identities, Akeredolu. One would be thinking that, state governors would be agitating if the solution will be restructured really happens. Away from that, you have the NLC backs ASU strike as students consider vocational skills. Very important. Aviation fuels, using the airways would have to go through the roads if that really happens. Away from that, you also find APC 6 vacation of court order stopping convention. The convention for the APC is slated for the 26th of March, but there's a lot of rancor going on in the APC at this point. Consumers to pay more for manufactured goods, that's also another one. And just before we move away from the leadership, you have the federal government, CBN, to finance 75,600 N-Power benefit. NDLEA oppose bill for husband. And that's it on the leadership this morning.
Let's move on from the leadership to look at the headlines on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. The big one, CBN in fresh plan to wean banks of cash handling risks and costs. CBN in fresh plan to wean banks of cash handling risks and costs, with the following riders: moves to license shared cash hub operators, considers areas with large banking activities to accommodate individuals, corporate entities with huge cash needs, and restricted to transaction not below 500,000 naira. The editorial in the paper, the Guardian newspaper this morning, is on the Russia-Ukraine war, titled Russia-Ukraine War and Biting Realities in Nigeria. Sure to make for an interesting read. More from the paper. Amid costly diesel, grid collapses 24 hours after Genco's warning. Amid costly diesel, grid collapses 24 hours after Genco's warning. Outrage in the two Esquire bed mates. Abakari's wife slumps in court. NDLEA demands husband, remands husband, 6 others. Chaos at airports as fuel scarcity disrupts operations. And Nigeria may lose 170,000 barrels per day as Shell and Najib declare force majeure. These are the headlines on the front page of The Guardian.
Underneath, discos alert power consumers as 19 power plants record zero output. Federal government, TCN, Gensco's, NNPC, oil firms, others hold marathon session. Major firms, public institutions suspend services as blackout lingers. This is a lot, to deal with at this point in time, dealing with fuel scarcity, hiking, the price or, fare, transportation fare. And now you have to grapple with, the blackout. Wike Obaseki continue verbal war. Governors allege betrayal on guarded comments. And also you have reps NNPC intervene as flight cancellation leaves passengers stranded. Federal government may spend 83% of revenue on interest in 2022, says the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. And underneath, you find a picture representing, what happened yesterday. Confusion as Kyari's wife slumps in court, suspended DCP remanded. And 12 days to convention, APC holds forms governors and divided. I like to take that again. 12 days to convention, APC holds forms, governors divided. And inquest, you have Sylvester died of pneumonia leading to a disease, says the doctor. Rumored planned police strike fake, mischievous. That's what the force headquarters is quoted to say. And you still have underneath, there are several interesting headlines, but we'll just take one or two and move away for the want of time. ASU extends strike to May. Parents beg federal government. Parents beg and federal government demands met. Nigeria reports 1,060 polio cases. Variant hits 29 states and the FCT. These are some of the headlines.
All right, we'll birth with the Daily Independent with the following headlines on its front page. The banner caption there with the kicker: ASU strike extension. And the headline: stakeholders blame federal government, urge quick resolution of impasse. Stakeholders blame federal government, urge quick resolution of impasse. And the following writers, still the front page of the Daily Independent, say government needs to be proactive to end strike. Worried over students' elongated programs, education standard, and most demands raised by academic union have been met, says federal government. More from the Daily Independent: fuel scarcity, airlines threaten to shut down in 3 days. Fuel scarcity, airlines threaten to shut down in 3 days. And Bielsa blast cuts oil export by 25,000 barrels per day as ENI declares force majeure. INEC asks APC, PDP to obey court orders, electoral guidelines. One wonders which court orders they're talking about. If Umahi belongs to that category, you can read the details of that on page 7 of the Daily Independent. Governors, state attorneys general brainstorm on criminal justice VAT and bail plea. Abba Kyari knows fate, March 28 as wife slumps in court. These are the details, or the headlines rather, on the front page of the Daily Independent. Let's turn attention now to Chris Kende Wandu, our guest analyst on Off the Press this morning. Mr. Wandu, the airlines in Nigeria have told us that the unthinkable can happen, and that being that no airline will be flying from any of the airports within the country. That is something you could never have imagined. Your thoughts on this?
Yes, something never imagined, but very, very avoidable. As of this morning, there's been an update on that news. As of yesterday, the chairman of AP said that practically have just 3 days aviation fuel before shutting down. The news coming in this morning is that the NNPC, which is the sole importer of Jet A1, have come up to say that they will try to supply the airlines with Jet A1 for 3 days more at the rate of 500 naira. Presently, it's going for about 700 naira, and that is where the problem is. And the airlines have looked at it from that point that, irrespective of whatever you do, that is not profitable. And instead of them to start risking the lives of Nigeria, it's better that they just shut down onto something else. And I watched the DG of NCAA last weekend, one of the national TV stations, who also raised this concern that in the next few days, if nothing is done, that they will practically shut down the airspace from the airlines, because when you start having this problem, then we're going back to days of Bellevue crash, days of EAS crash, days of Dana crash, and the other crashes that happened in the past, because most of the airlines were cutting corners. So that is where we find ourselves. But as I said, that could have been solved, because as we have it presently, it is only the NNPC that imports Jet A1. I was also watching I also listened and watched the, is it the president or the chairman of the Oil Marketers Association, who was saying that the last time they had the opportunity of importing Jet A1 was about 4 or 5 years ago. And what is happening is that licenses are being given to people that are not involved in the aviation industry. You know the way we roll in Nigeria. And that in itself, what they just do is they don't have anything. They don't have any stake in the aviation industry. They probably sell those licenses or sell those allocations to people. Then you continue to have middlemen meddling in it. As of now, that is going for about 700 naira. But that doesn't, and it was asked the question, why is it that it's not affecting, what is happening to the international airlines that are coming to Nigeria? And he said that they have a contract with the international airlines, to sell at 400 naira. And as it were presently, that they are losing because they are buying at 600, and even some of them are buying middlemen for 600 and supplying it. So that is a contract they have with international airlines. But I don't know what is going to happen. I also hear that the NNPC is thinking of, NNPC and the minister is thinking of the possibility of now adhering to the request of the airline operators to import this Jet A1. Kofi, what we should know is that most people don't understand that Jet A1 is not just only for airlines or for planes. People are, it's part of those kerosene you use at home. You can use Jet A1 as kerosene in the house for local consumption for your consumption, but you cannot use kerosene because that was what I understand. I've read firstly about this. You can use Jet A1 as kerosene in the domestic use. So what we have now is that Nigerians are competing with the airlines for that product as domestic because we don't also have kerosene in the country. So it's becoming a very, very terrible situation that I hope that something we give and the authorities in question will be able to do something about it. But that is Nigeria. We don't have lights. We don't have petrol to move around. Now the aviation. What it means that we have been totally shut down. And good enough, Kofi, I will advise you, I will advise Messi, if Messi doesn't have to ride a bicycle, she should go and buy a bicycle because it will come to a point that all resort to now is using bicycle to move around. And so terrible.
It's quite an unfortunate situation. And of course, the House of Representatives brokering something between the NNPC and the oil marketers. And like you said, they're saying they can provide at 500 naira for the next 3 days. So which means 6 days. So after that, what happens? What happens after that? And it's so sad to hear you say that, you know, they have a contract with the foreign airlines to supply at 400 naira. What happened to pricing in dollars? So anytime the thing goes up, you can still make your money. It's quite unfortunate and really sad. Like you said, the nation is shut down, really. Is it the power sector shut down? For the business people, how are they going to buy the highly priced diesel? You know, they're spending between, you know, huge amounts of money. Let's not even go there. So it is at dire times. And before Messi comes in with the next headline, what are your thoughts on Mr. President hopping on the plane and you know, jetting out of the country when Nigerians were in the middle of a gripping, you know, fuel scarcity situation that affected them in very, very terrible ways?
I've always been one of those that believe that we've always been on autopilot. I'm using the aviation term again. I know that yourself and Messi understand what I mean by that. When you're in a plane, you know, when a plane is like you are flying from here to United States, it gets to a point that where the pilots get tired, and although they have co-pilot and rest of it, they put it, there's a level at which they fly, they just put it on autopilot that the pilot doesn't have to get himself engaged in the activities of piloting the plane, and the plane can move for hours without anybody, and that is what we find ourselves. The president who's supposed to, you are talking of only the economy, you are talking of petroleum, you are talking of aviation, you are talking of, what of the level of insecurity? It's like the country is being left for us. Although the president said, yes, the vice president is in charge, but it does not transmit power to the vice president because there's a limit to what it's just like my local palace where it said, if you want to give me goat, to give me with the rope. No, give me rope. No, give me goat, don't go rope. If you understand what I mean, Kofi. Yes. So that is what is happening. So there are certain decisions that the vice president might not be able to take without the president. So we are at the fate of, I just pray that we'll be able to survive the 2 weeks or 3 weeks, he say will be the way. When it comes back, then we start the bet. Even at that, you see that, even in terms of politics, all of them are moving now to London. All of them, the graduates are now moving to London, even to meet the president on the issue of APC convention coming up. Well, I don't know what. I don't know what.
Maybe we all have to start going to London to charge our phones because it's like that's where.
Can you even afford it? Can you even afford it? you know when Timaya. You know the song by Timaya now, where he say you wake up, you go to US and London to charge his phone and come back the next moment and rest of it. Maybe that's what we need to do because even the fuel to run the generator in the house, we don't have it. As we are talking, I've not had lights for some days now. And I'm happy.
Let's just, you know, look at it now. Now. It's a good thing that you have mentioned that. It's on the Punch newspaper. It talks about the blackout as the national grid collapses And, you know, according to reports, this would be the second time for 2022. Now, the federal government has actually summoned an emergency meeting, and we're asking, as always, of what use will this meeting be? Would it solve any problem? Because we have very technical issues that needs to be addressed. Will an emergency meeting fix it? Maybe that would happen. But your thoughts? How did we get to this point? What do we need to do to get out of it?
If I have the magic wand, I would have told you what to do, what we do, Messi, but I don't think I have. Just like you, I don't think you have as well. We are talking of collapse, second collapse in this year. I will tell you that we've had over 20 or 30 total collapse since 2015. And they have been meeting and nothing has been done about it. The one in Ikorodu collapsed. The one in, all over, it collapsed. Messi, the most annoying part of it is that we are not even transmitting enough. We are hovering between 4,000 and 3,000, which is we can neither get it. A country like South Africa is about 30,000. They are on about 30,000. We are the most populous country in the whole of Africa. We cannot generate, but we cannot be able to transmit up to 5,000. Now everything collapses. Why won't we collapse? Because when the burden, it's just simple mathematics. This thing. If you have a lot of burden on that, on the GenCos, then it will, the power stations will collapse. We've said that let us look for alternative. The Mambila has been there for years, and I think it's hydro. And we believe this. Some people believe that we'll be able to put up that of Mambila. There's a possibility that we will have enough to put into the national grid. We are not doing that. What we're doing is just managing what we have. At the end of it, even if they do the emergency, you have the emergency meeting today, and they bring I can tell you that in the next few days again, it will collapse again. We are not doing what we are supposed to do. We are not building more. We are looking at the power sector. There was a time, you remember, Messi, there was a time that we had a minister, I can't remember his name now. He was the former Vice Chancellor of University of Nigeria, Nsukka. I can't remember his name now, one pro. He had what he said, and it's laughable. He said there are witches and wizards in the power sector. And I don't know where the professor got his idea of witch and wizard in our power sector. But that is it. A country like Ghana, a country like Benin, a country like Togo, even Niger and Chad are having steady power supply. Do you know that we're also transmitting power to some of these neighboring countries in West Africa when we don't even have enough of our own? There was some time ago, it was published that one of these West African countries was owing us billions and billions. And I hope you remember that story. We cannot even. So what are we going? The SMEs are practically dead. The industries are dying. The level of insecurity is on the high. People cannot find job. And you ask yourself, and I used to have this feeling that with all sorts of humor, if some Nigerians, God forbid, find themselves in hell, and you know they say there's heaven, there's hell, some people won't feel it. Because already some of us are already in hell. Yeah. So when you get there, it's like a relocation. They won't feel it. And that is the situation we find ourselves. And it's that bad. We don't even know who to complain to. The president we are supposed to talk, is he not the one in London having his medicals and chilling out and the rest of them? I leave the rest of it. If he comes back, the light doesn't affect him. I'm sure he has light 24 hours. The ministers have light 24 hours. Legislators have light 24 hours because they can run their generator for 24 hours. But you and I, the poor people on the street, we cannot be able to afford light. Then we have to look for a way of charging our phone, just our phone to communicate. That is phone, no. I'm not talking of vehicle and all that. This thing. And you need to ask yourself, how do the question you ask, which I like is, which I'm looking forward to somebody to answer, how do we get here? And I think that is the question we should be asking now. In any of the presentation, Messi, Kofi, the question you should be asking everybody is, how do we get there? And when you have all these people coming to your stations, ask them the question, how do we get there? Maybe they'll give us the answer. Of course, CK and Chris Ken, I don't think I have the answer to that.
All right, Chris Ken, let's just stick with the crisis in the different sectors of the economy, but with aviation, there's a picture some people are painting and saying that one of the reasons why the House of Reps has rushed, in a quote, in their words, to wade into this aviation sector crisis to ensure that at least the airlines can get the fuel to power their jets to fly for the next 6 days is because this also affects them. I mean, not all of them will have, and the elites in the country, let's put it that way, will be able to afford a private jet to travel all around. Even the mayor himself of Kano, the revered mayor, all respect to him, had to use the airpiece. Do you go with that school of thought that the reason they rushed to crush the price of the Jet A1 to 500 naira per liter, even though Alan Uyama is saying that even without 500 naira, they'll be selling their tickets at 85,000 naira, for a flight within the country. Do you feel that there's some sort of also a personal interest for the elites, especially those in the National Assembly, looking to this and quickly resolving it? And this is not as fast as they acted, or this is slower than they acted with the petrol that you and I use on a daily basis.
But that's just a congestion.
Okay.
If they fly out, with their village people fly out, with their constituency fly out, with those living in their houses fly out, with their father and mother fly out, with their sisters fly out, it's just a congestion as far as I'm concerned. What we are doing is postponing what I call the evil day. And the evil day, if we don't take proactive measure, the evil day will go. Even countries in war are having a nation where they are having electricity. In Ukraine, with all the bombing, electricity, coffee, electricity in Ukraine, sure you know that one. With all the bombings, all these our students coming in from Ukraine, with all the bombing, they say they'll be having electricity. They'll be charging their phone. They'll be making calls. We that is not in a situation of war. What other situation is worse than this? Is this not more than war? This is a war. It's a war situation. What are we talking about?
Okay.
So, I just believe that in Nigeria, we joke a lot. We just try to find. We are the happiest people on earth.
Are you sure we don't have our own war? It's just that it's not a civil war. But anyway,
listen to me. I said this is war. Hear what I said. I said this is war, that we're in war situation, even worse war situation than those in Ukraine. The only thing we are seeing that nobody is bumping us. But we have been bombed physically, mentally, even spiritually. We have been bombed, and we are so helpless that we have nothing. You and I cannot go anywhere now.
But Chris,
nobody will give you visa.
The truth is, yes, of course, the fact that we don't have the conventional war being experienced in Nigeria, where you have people shootings and all of that, doesn't necessarily mean that war does not happen. So war is not only when you have exchanging bullets and what have you. This is also, a war situation as well. And that's because of some structural decadence and deficiency in the system. And if we have to address the issues, we have to go to the root of it. We have to address it from the root. But most times, it feels like we are looking at the symptom. You look at the educational sector as shutting down or is on shutdown. And then you look at the aviation sector. It's, might just be going down. Everything seems to be going down. Just maybe the doctors also might just wake up at this point again and back on a strike or something. And then we'll just have to, all be grounded. But we will continue to pray as we do always in this country. And one day we're hoping that we would decide not to just pray, but do the work.
Mercy, that has always been our problem. We pray. We'll pray. We are the most prayerful nation on earth. Even the Vatican, where Christianity, where you have a headquarters. Americans don't pray as much as we pray. Those in UK, those in China. If you are talking of prayer, go to wait. If you are talking of prayer, Chinese people don't pray. But you see how progressive they are. The problem is that we have been so boxed to a corner that we believe that prayer can solve it. Even the Bible says, heaven help those that help themselves.
Oh, it's not in the Bible. No, that's not in the Bible.
The fact is that we have to do the needful. We have to do every Sunday, if not only Sunday. Mercy, it has gotten to a point. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we are going on vigil. Who you don't help? That's a problem.
But Chris,
it's not that problem.
But Chris, that's not in the Bible. It's just a popular saying. There's no address of that. There's no chapter of that.
And if you know the Bible, add it to the one that is there. Let us add it to this.
Okay, Chris Kedewadu, whilst Nigerians are grappling with these issues and expecting the politicians to prefer solutions, they seem to be fighting themselves and still focusing on the political matters. Nyesom Wike and Godwin Obaseki became bedfellows after Godwin Obaseki left the APC to the PDP, and he of course relied on Nyesom Wike's endorsement and support to be given the umbrella and to become the flag bearer of the PDP in the governorship election in Edo State, which he went on to win. Wike also supported him in terms of campaigning. He was there even on the day of election, if I'm not mistaken. But both men have begun exchanging words. Wike fired his first salvo when he had some pretty uncharitable, undiplomatic words for Philip Shawaibu, who is the deputy governor of Edo State, and that led the governor of Edo State to put up a press statement, which is the likes of which you hardly see addressing Wike and telling him what to do. You know, it was really, really, really a strong one from Obaski. They've been back and forth, and the headline on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning is Wike Obaseki continue verbal war. Governors allege betrayal, unguarded comments. Your thoughts on this?
Kofi, yes, Wike is a governor I have so much respect. But it seems that man is becoming a bully. And the earlier we tame people like Wike, the earlier the better. The last time I checked, Wike is not the owner of PDP. In fact, when PDP was formed, Wike hasn't even come into the picture. It was from 1999 that he was appointed that the chairman of Obiakpo, then what's his name, Amechi brought him into cabinet and the rest of it. He was not part of those that fought PDP. So what is his problem? Why is he bullying everybody? And that's what we ask ourselves. I think we say something. We jump up and attack him. He is the one attacking Umani. He is the one that is attacking Obaseki. He is the one attacking. He is the national chairman of PDP. What is his problem? And that is what the problem we are having in this country is that we try to as much as possible to build individuals instead of institutions. I think we should call a spade a spade. Wike should face his job as the governor of Rivers State and leave other state governors alone to do their job. What is it? This is what is called meddlesome interloper. What is his business with Edo State? Is it the governor of Edo State? Even if you help, let me tell you something. The fact that you help me does not mean that you should kill me. So Wike should just stop all this. Let us even look at the issues that we have. Kofi, when Governor Tambuwa moved from APC to PDP, all the structure in Sokoto State was handed over to him by the PDP. When Matalawi moved from PDP to APC, all the structure of APC in that state was handed to him. When David Umahi moved from PDP to APC, all the structure of APC was handed over to him. The same thing with Governor of Cross River State, Professor Ayade, and so many others. That is how it works.
Well, Chris,
since we came into PDP, we have not been given the necessary support to be able to move this party forward. And a deputy governor came to national television to say, this is the problem we are having. We need a solution. You jump up and just
Chris, we have to let you go now.
No, just a second. He was even calling him a near deputy governor. Can you imagine deputy governor? Who is Wike? And I think it's high time we start. If we don't continue to look at issues on this basis, then we're going to run into Wike, as I said, is the governor of Rivers State. Okay, let me even put it to you. As a media person, as a communication person, he went to commission roads and the rest of it. Do you hear the name of that road that was commissioned? Do you hear about the commissioning? No. What you are hearing now is the fact that he's talking about Umar, he's talking about this. That is not I think it's high time that
we have to go. But Umahi is claiming that, yes, Wike, and of course, this is an allegation, has the judiciary in his armpit, going by the words he's said about the Ebonyi State case. But we'll be watching the situation. You know, you have Cross River State, Ayade saying Wike hounded him out of the PDP, and now Edo State, Obaski accusing Wike of meddling in the party. We'll continue to watch the situation. Chris Kende Umahi is a detribalized Nigerian.
Not
and
Umahi.
Chris
Kende Wandu. Sorry. You know how the government is speaking to me through you, to you through me.
Messi can see Kofi. He has made me a governor. You can see Kofi.
Yes, so. But without the trouble of Umahi, Chris Kende Wandu is a chartered mediator and conciliator and what we call a detribalized Nigerian. Thank you very much for your time.
It's nice being with you this morning. Do have a wonderful day ahead.
All right, that's the size of it for Off the Press. Let's tell you what happened today in history, and at 8 o'clock, we'll head straight to a major conversation. Please stay with us.
Do you know any female between the ages of 18 to 25 who is currently unemployed or an undergraduate who is passionate about technology? Africa Agility is empowering young females between the ages of 18 to 25 with tech skills ranging from
product management,
web development, artificial intelligence, data science, digital marketing, machine learning, blockchain technology, agile, networking, and cybersecurity through partnership with Cisco. Here is your chance to learn these tech skills for free. We offer a variety of instructor-led and self-paced programs, both physical and virtual. To be a part of our programs, join our community using the details on your screen. Africa Agility is slowly reducing the poverty rate in Africa, one girl at a time. To sponsor a female or to donate to this course, visit donate.africaagility.org. Thank you.
Welcome back. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa, and we move on with our conversations right here on the program. Of course, the ASU strike is one that has given a lot of Nigerians reason for concern. We have a guest standing by to discuss this very all-important issue that has affected Nigeria's education sector, and it's of course giving a lot of parents reason to complain. In fact, Parents Association has released a statement calling for more to be done by the authorities as far as the strike is concerned. ASU has extended the strike by 2 months or 8 weeks. They had a meeting at their national secretariat in the University of Abuja yesterday where this particular decision was taken. Before we introduce our guest, who is Dele Shiru, chairman of the Academic Staff Union of Universities in the University of Lagos, let's quickly go to the background of this story. Well, after declaring a 1-month warning strike on February 14 in protest at the federal government's failure to meet their demands, the Academic Staff Union of Universities has voted to extend the strike for a further 8 weeks, arising from an emergency meeting of its National Executive Council at the University of Abuja on Sunday, March 13, 2022, at its National Secretariat. ASU President Professor Emmanuel Osodeke said the union had concluded that the government had failed to satisfactorily address all the issues raised in the 2020 FGN ASU Memorandum of Action within the 4-week rollover strike period, and therefore resolved that the strike be rolled over for another 8 weeks to give the government more time to address all the issues in concrete terms, so that, in his words, students will resume as soon as possible. Now, other demands of the union, as listed by ASU, include earned academic allowances, the state universities, promotion arrears, withheld salaries and non-remittance of third-party deductions. Now, since the beginning of the strike on February 14, 2022, the government and ASU have met 2 times. Now, joining us to discuss the development and its implications, let's welcome Dele Ashiru, who is the chairman of the Academic Staff Union of Universities in the University of Lagos. Mr. Ashiru, good morning to you and thank you very much for your time.
Good morning. Thank you very much for this invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Please give us a summary of what happened in the University of Abuja yesterday. I'm sure, on Sunday, right? I'm sure you were there at that meeting.
Oh, yes, I was at the meeting. What happened is as described by the president of our union. We met at the National Secretariat of our union, situated in the University of Abuja, where we took reports from our trustees and principal officers about the engagements that they have had with government so far. In the briefing, we were told that government has not demonstrated enough will and the desire to meet the minimum demands of our union. Although we have a couple of them like you have listed out, but some are very, very critical to this ongoing strike action. One of them is the question of scooping up the already renegotiated agreement between our union and government with a view to implementing it. After the briefing from our trustees and principal officers, NEC discussed the items one by one and concluded that given the ongoing narratives and given the work that is still ongoing, it is necessary for our union to give government some more time to be able to put their hearts together in the interest of Nigerian students and the Nigerian university system. Consequent upon that, the National Executive Council decided that there was the need to extend the strike action by another 8 weeks, which is 2 months, and that has been so communicated to Nigerians.
Okay, let's also look at another issue that some persons are saying that this might just be a bone of contention, the major bone of contention between the union, that's ASU, and the federal government, and it talks about the payment system. The federal government is proposing the IPPIS system. And of course, the union is talking about the UTAS payment system. And some people are saying that the reason ASU is really embarking the bone of contention, despite all that's been put out, is necessarily the payment system, which, the federal government doubts the transparency of the system in the administration of, the universities. Can you share your thoughts on this?
Well, let me start by saying that government is not proposing IPPIS. Government forcefully enrolled us on IPPIS, despite our disagreement with government on the suitability of IPPIS for the Nigerian university system. And our union has been vindicated because in a recent report by the Auditor General of the Federation, IPPIS was described as a fraud. And our union had challenged federal government to publish the report of the Auditor General of the Federation so that we can see in bold relief the damage that IPPIS had done to the Nigerian university system and to the Nigerian state as a whole. Let me also mention that IPPIS is a payment system supposedly to curb corruption and waste in the salary and emolument of government workers. This has eroded autonomy and the smooth operation of the university system since its operation. it was as a result of the rejection of IPPIS that government threw the challenge at us that if we say IPPIS is not good, can we provide an alternative payment platform for the Nigerian university system? Our union took up that challenge, constituted a technical team that has produced what is now called the University Transparency and Accountability Solution, UTAS, which is a payment platform and software for payment of salaries in the Nigerian university system. That system had undergone series of tests by NITDA, and in fact, the user acceptability test that was conducted by NITDA, UTAS scored 88%. And then we challenged government that was IPPIS subjected to any test. IPPIS was not only subjected to any test, up till now, it has not been tested. In fact, the database for IPPIS is not domiciled in Nigeria. It's domiciled somewhere in the United States of America. So, having gone through all of these processes, while discussion was still going on and UTAS was still being tested, the Director General of NITA went on air, misinforming Nigerians and telling lies about UTAS. The current situation, if I may inform, is that our technical team and that of NIDA are currently meeting in their office in Abuja, clarifying gray areas and explaining areas that they don't understand as a prelude to certifying UTAS as a payment platform for the Nigerian university system.
But you also have the federal government saying that the UTAS failed integrity tests, and that's what the federal government is saying, that they don't trust,
We have said that is not true. That's a lie. And that's misleading Nigerians. UTAS cannot fail integrity tests because UTAS is a system that has been carefully developed by the best brains in the Nigerian university system. And I am informing you that those areas that the NITSDA officials did not understand, which made them give that verdict, is currently being reviewed between our technical team and the NITSDA officials. It is unfortunate that government officials like the Director General of NITSDA, who had never attended any of the meetings, whether technical or otherwise, could go publicly on air to mislead Nigerians and mislead the people about an unfounded tale concerning UTAS.
Okay.
So as I speak to you, UTAS has integrity. It has not failed. It is a system that is homegrown, that is sufficiently fortified to take care of the payment system and its peculiarities in the Nigerian university system.
I'd like to take you back a bit, let's go back to the IPPS system. And you have mentioned that it's that payment system that was imposed on, the universities, a fraudulent system. Can you take us through how fraudulent it is? Because it feels like this might just be the bone of contention between your union and the government. Mr. Dele Ashiru, can you hear us?
No, at some point I didn't hear what. Can you repeat the question, please?
Okay, so I'm saying let's go back again. Let me take you back. I know in the course of this you've mentioned that the IPPIS system was imposed by the government and the union without your consent. And the government had said you should come up with an alternative. The UTAS was, proposed as an alternative. The federal government had said that it failed the integrity test. And you're saying that that's a lie. So I want you to take us, but in the course of the conversation, you have mentioned that the IPPIS system is a fraudulent system, according to reports. Can you categorically take us through how fraudulent and what exactly is wrong with this payment system?
Yeah, thank you very much. The first is that as I speak with you, nobody in the Nigerian university system today under IPPIS can tell you exactly how much he or she is going to earn in any particular month. quite often you find a situation where the salaries of a particular professor is amputated and paid, to another professor. There are wrong entries. There are most often salaries belonging to a professor in Unilag can be paid to another one in BUK or elsewhere. Not only that, the human resource compartment and the payroll system are together being lumped together by the IPPIS office in such a manner that provides ample opportunity for those in charge of the system to enroll even people who don't work in a particular system on the IPPIS platform, and they continue to receive salary. In some months, let me be specific, in the month of November, October or November last year, a number of people were paid about 3 months' salaries, and then they have to start withdrawing it instead of 1. So the payment platform had constituted, a clog in the wheel of progress of the Nigerian university system. And you find a situation where when things like that happen, you cannot even resolve, those little challenges in your respective universities, for them to get, their challenges sorted out at the IPPIS.
With the ASU, essentially saying that they wouldn't like to be negotiating under duress. And the argument, what's your take on that?
The question is, why will the Ministry of Education wait until we embark on strike to commence the negotiation? When the negotiation started last year under Professor Muzali Jubril, we weren't on strike. The renegotiation was concluded in May 2021. Between May 2021 and last month when we started the strike, what was the Ministry of Education doing? It is the Ministry of Education that is making ASU to negotiate under very unconducive conditions and circumstances. If they had been proactive and they have lived up to their billing as those who superintend over education in Nigeria, I do not think that this strike will commence in the first instance. It's only people who are bereft of IT.
For education, Mr. Chukwuemeka Nwajuba, who I'm sure you know very well, who is saying that he's insisting that the federal government has met all your demands and that all the end allowances as well as the revitalization funds have been released.
You see, yes. The best thing is to disregard Mr. Nwajuba, because it's more of a confusion in that ministry than any responsible public officer interested in resolving crisis. In all of what I have been explaining, did I talk about end allowances or revitalization fund? We are saying that we have a renegotiated document with government. Scoop it up, let us discuss the content of the renegotiated agreement as a basis, for increasing welfare conditions of our members and ensuring that the university system works seamlessly. A junior minister is sitting down somewhere and misinforming and misleading Nigerians. I think it's high time Nigerians told Nwajuba that his likes are not the kind of people who should superintend over education in Nigeria. He has been more of a problem to the entire process than a solution. And that is exactly what is currently displaying. How can a union that is aggrieved that government abdicated its own responsibility, and all the minister would have to say is that end allowances and revitalization fund are nice for Mr. Nwajuba to sit down and get familiar with the issues, rather than going to press and making infuriatory statements that will further degenerate the situation rather than ameliorate it.
All right. Very strong words for you, for Mr. Nwajuba. But What are the contents of this renegotiated agreements? For those who are listening and are wondering, and I've read the statement by the Minister of State for Education saying they've released the funds to you, and he talked about the revitalization fund and earned allowances, meeting all your demands. What are the contents of this renegotiated agreement? Let's just go back there.
There are 4 pillars in the renegotiated agreement. The first is the condition of service of our members. Mr. Iwajoba is saying what he's saying because he's feeding fat on public funds. University teachers in Nigeria have been receiving the same salary in the last 13 years. That is not a subject of concern to the Minister of State for Education. The highest paid professor in Nigerian university is today receiving a paltry sum of 400-something thousand naira. That is not a subject of concern for the Minister of State. For you to hire an assistant lecturer in any federal university in Nigeria, his take-home pay is not up to 150,000 naira. We are saying that government should renegotiate this condition of service so that we can make, teaching in the university attractive to best praise. Is busy talking about end allowances. End allowances are mere symptoms of a failed system. The meaning of end allowances is that government is unable to provide the requisite number of workers in the university, and those who are doing excess workload should be compensated for the work that they are doing. How does that measure up to conditions of service? So the first pillar of the renegotiated agreement is conditions of service. The second is funding for revitalization of public universities. Universities have remained in terms of reagents, in terms of library provision, etc. So one of the terms of that agreement is that funding should be provided so that we can bring to life this decaying infrastructure. And that is where the question of revitalization comes in. Government is in default of 1.1 trillion naira as revitalization fund. The highest that has been released so far was by the President Goodluck Jonathan administration. Is what we call university autonomy and academic freedom. It is that university autonomy that IPPIS is. First is other matters that are related to all of the 3 items that I have enumerated above, and they have to do with global best practices in making the universities globally competitive in terms of research and innovation, and ensuring that our graduates are globally competitive.
Okay, but let's also stay with these issues. We're still understanding some of the concern. Nigerians, a lot of persons have been taken aback with the fact that ASU is still talking about implementation of the agreement that was entered in 2009. And just some days back, your national president, Emmanuel Shuduke, who granted an interview to a sister station, had mentioned insisting that the government should choose between funding these universities or shutting them, and saying that the government must implement the agreement of 2009. Does all of this fall under? First of all, I'd like to ask, has the government not implemented the agreement it entered with the union, of course, which you're part of, in 2009?
Yeah, I think that what the president said is that government should implement the renegotiated agreement. In the 2009 agreement, both government and our union agreed that that agreement should be reviewed every 3 years. Our government had remained in default because since 2009 till date, government has refused to renegotiate that agreement. But our union haven't gone on strike for 9 months in 2020, forced government to renegotiate the 2009 agreement. That agreement had been renegotiated and concluded since May 2021. So what the president is saying is that government should scoop up the renegotiated agreement and commence implementation. Now, in terms of making our universities competitive, what is contained in the agreement is for government to implement best practices, globally accepted best practices in our university system to save it from imminent collapse. And our government, our president is just putting government on the edge. Fund your universities like a responsible government will do, or close them for that period of time when, you'll be able to make up your mind as to the adequacy of funds to be released to the universities. And of course, I know that it is not in the interest of Nigeria.
Worries.
Well, you see, that's a very challenging concern. But my reaction is, you see, there is no gain when there is no pain. For us to keep the Nigerian university system, all of us must endure this pain for a while. If we don't continue to do what we are doing now, we may find out that we don't even have a university for these children to return. As I speak with you, there are no public primary schools that are worth that name in Nigeria anymore. There are no public secondary schools that are enviable for even all of us to send our kids there. If we don't continue to struggle in the manner that we are doing at the moment, we may wake up and find out that government had destroyed, public universities and handed them over to their private cronies and collaborators. So these struggles are necessary to keep the Nigerian university system functional, to ensure it plays its strategic role in the development of Nigeria. And my appeal to parents is, rather than sit down and agonize, we should all organize and challenge this vicious and wicked government that we have at the moment and hold them accountable, to their electoral promises in ensuring that they fund education adequately. As you may already be aware, no any nation can rise above its own level of educational development.
Okay,
and
Mr.
that's
Shiru,
why government must take education very seriously.
Yeah, Mr. Shiru, finally, before you go, of course, the Minister of Labour and Employment has said that ASU has been acting in disregard of the Labour Act and the Trade and Dispute Act as well. I would like to know if you're being paid your salary while you are still striking. That's number one. Number two, if the federal government doesn't accede to your fresh demands, what will you do on the expiration of these 2 months? So 2 questions, if you can answer that very quickly.
It is not correct that we're acting against labor laws. And the Minister of Labour himself has not drawn our attention to any specific labor law that has been violated. In terms of paying our salaries, we commenced our strike in February. We had already worked for the salaries that we have already paid. It is incumbent on, government to pay us, because they are the ones who are foisting this strike action on Nigerians. If government had lived up to its promises and its agreements with our union, this strike would certainly be unnecessary. And the third question is to say that we all need to understand the role which education plays in any society. Indeed, societies that are making progress the world over are those who are investing heavily, in their education system. And it is our hope and wish that the Nigerian government would also understand this historic responsibility of education in any society and change its attitude to education, especially tertiary education in Nigeria.
Thank you very much for your time. Dele Ashiru is the chairman of the Academic Staff Union of Universities in the University of Lagos.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to share my thoughts with you. We are indeed grateful for your concern in the development of education in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you. Well,
still the breakfast on Plus TV Africa. A lot to talk about as far as education is concerned, but we'll keep our eyes on this one. Of course, you can be sure of the latest right here on this station. We have a break ahead when we return. Mercy.
Will be time for us to delve into the power sector. Stay with us.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. Welcome to your favorite program, The Moment of Truth, brought to you by the Citadel Global Community Church. Our God is a God of salvation, far above all principality and power, and might and dominion, that regardless of what happens in this season, you will escape. Say to your neighbor, there is no peace for the wicked. The lazy man does not roast what he took in hunting, but diligence is a man's precious possession. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might.
Moment of Truth with Pastor Tunde Bakare, Sundays, 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
Welcome to this edition of Timeless Conversations. We welcome Remy Ogunpito. He's the founder and managing director of IBST Limited.
For quite a period of time, almost like a year, I didn't know what to do. I think that we don't invest enough in our people.
You said your dad was a politician.
Yes.
Are you a politician?
No way.
Timeless Conversations, airing every Sunday at 8:30 p.m.
In raising our kids, parents should stop playing God.
The internet is actually using the people.
But when you are looking for money to help other people, then it becomes easy.
Don't rush into marriage. I always say this. You rush in, you rush out.
Family is the bedrock of every society and the essence of life.
On Today with John and Helen, we dig deep into family values in every sense of the word.
Join us every Saturday at 9:15 a.m. on Plus TV Africa, DSTV channel 408.
With you, we play a part in strengthening the values passed from generation to generation.
Welcome back to The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. We're looking at the power sector at this point following the collapse of the national grid. Now, as Nigerians are experiencing epileptic power supply and a hike in electricity, in fuel prices, electricity distribution companies discos in the country said the recent collapse of the grid occurred at 10:40 a.m. and disrupted power supply within their networks. Consequently, you have this discos in affected states like Lagos, Kaduna, Abia, Anambra, Ebonyi, Enugu, Imo State, among others. Apologize to their customers and promise to keep them updated on the situation as close monitoring of the situation with partnership with the TCN is ongoing on to determine the cause and the timeline for solution. Now, the grid experienced this disruption has experienced this disruption in February, May, July, and August 2021. Now, in 2022, we also have reports saying that it would be the second time. We do have a guest in the studio. He's an energy expert, O'Neil Lajuwumi, joining us as the Group CEO of Wavelength. It's good to have you join us this morning in our studio.
Thank you, Mercy. Good to have you.
All right, so let's start with this now. How does this really make you feel as an energy expert, as a Nigerian, total collapse and the fact that the nation is thrown into gross darkness?
I mean, for me, it's more like a broken record. I've been on TV shows for quite a number of time and talking on this matter. I don't know, I mean, where we're headed at this point in time in the country. But of course, I'm privy to some developments that soon, or maybe soon, we will start to see some improvements in the power supply. But of course, we cannot say much because we've been hoping for a long time in Nigeria for better electricity supply. And way before I was born, I'm sure there's been a lot of epileptic power going on. But since I've been growing up, it's been the same story, one day after another. But of course, I mean, where we are right now, we shouldn't be there as a country. There's a lot that can be done to have a reliable and sustainable power.
Interesting. So, what are your thoughts on the generating, let me say, the reasons given by those involved? You know,
Sure.
The distribution companies have put up announcements telling us, oh, when it's not our fault, or ask the others.
Yeah.
The transmission company of Nigeria had to put up a statement earlier to say what's happening or what will come is not their fault. They're only transmitting what they can get. And then the generating company is talking about, of course, issues with payment and collection of monies, from the distribution companies, and of course to look at the amount of power produced by Nigeria in terms of megawatts. So what are your thoughts on the reasons being given?
Well, Kofi, thank you so much. I mean, let me just break it down a little bit, right? You've mentioned most part of it. The power sector has three key major value chain. One is the generation company. In fact, four, actually. I take it back. One is the generation company. The other one is the transmission company. And we have the distribution company. And then the gas suppliers. So there's a lot of factors that could result to grid collapse, partial grid collapse or total grid collapse. And yes, of course, there's the TCN, and of course, at some point may not really understand what has triggered the grid collapse. And if you remember, as at 10:40 a.m. yesterday, there was no real reason for it. I said we're still investigating it. And there are a lot of factors. One, it could be the gas supply. For example, last month, we've experienced 2 grid collapse this year already, and it's just barely a quarter of the year, all right? In January, the factor that caused the grid collapse was the pipeline vandalism. So there was gas supply, was cut off, that supplies the generation company. The Transfer Cados pipeline that feeds Motor Show and them lot was cut off. So when that happens, there's a drop in the load that goes into the network. And when that drop occurs, the grid collapses because it's not stable. All right? So that's one factor. You also had the Egbin shutdown. Egbin fire came up. I mean, that again, there's a drop. So grid collapse occurs when there's disturbances along the transmission.
Okay, so but let's look at the fact that the country has like 12 generating, power plants,
Yeah.
3 of which are hydro and 9 are gas powered.
Sure.
And it feels like we have been very dependent on just 2. So why limit yourself to just 2 two plants when you have 12.
Yeah, I mean, 80% of power generation in Nigeria is gas fired. The other 20 is from other sources. 80%.
Okay.
So yeah, so if you have gas gas supply problem, the grid will collapse. The problem with the Nigerian power sector and Nigerian power supply industry is the fact that it's centralized. And I said this without time without number, right? You generate power all the way from Sapele and you transmit to Ogbomosho, where the TCN control center is, and then now start to distribute, you understand? So now that cannot work. Along that line, there could be disturbances. For example, I mentioned the gas pipeline cuts off to the power plant in Sapele. What happens? The Ogbomosho transmission center cannot receive power. The grid is going to collapse, right? And then again, you have the transmission company. There are a lot of obsolete equipment along the line. Most of the installation have been done since 1960s. Of course, I understand there's some upgrades currently ongoing. Coupled with that, you also have the distribution company. The distribution company also has some problem in all of this, because if they don't take the power that the transmission company is wheeling out, then again the system becomes overloaded. Again, that could result to collapse. So there are different factors. A collapse maybe, has different factors for reasons. But of course, back to your question, why are we relying on gas fire? The hydropower plant, for example, is what we have going on at the moment, because that's not been affected by gas supply. But of course, that also has its own problems.
Yes,
it gets affected by low levels of water
because
during dry season.
The Minister of Power, Abukaliu, had initially last week said that the poor power supply situation was caused by low water levels.
Sure.
Is that true? Bearing in mind you've said 80% of our power supply comes from gas.
Yeah, I mean it's quite. I mean, I don't know that fact, to be honest, but it's very possible because this year alone we've witnessed a lot of vandalism in the pipeline, and that's the feedstock that supplies the power plant generation company. Okay. If the generation companies do not have gas to fire the power plant, they cannot supply power to the transmission. The transmission cannot supply to the distribution network. The distribution network cannot supply to us, the customers. So there's a lot of problems.
So it brings us back, to the same bulk of saying that if we have, why do we not have to depend on, the two that we have, because it's the generation.
Yeah.
You have the discourse telling you we cannot give what we don't have.
Sure.
So if you're generating 5,000 megawatts or 4,000 or thereabout, then you would have to distribute this amongst, the people, and that's quite limiting if you look at it, looking at the entire population. Yeah. But you have mentioned the issue of decentralization of, these plants, the generating plants. So we don't talk about the collapse. Are you now saying, should we be thinking or looking in the direction of having these plants, sometimes installed in the northern parts of the country as well?
I agree. So if you hit the nail on the coffin, one of the major problems is the centralization of the whole power generation and also the transmission. So decentralization is one thing I've been clamoring for a long time. You cannot generate power all the way from Sapele and transmit to Lagos. It's not going to work. So what we need to start to look at is regionalizing this power supply. So Lagos, for example, should be able to generate its own power. And that has been going on, a matter that's been going on. Last month, the state governments took up that fight and they want to start to look into that area. Until we have that kind of intervention, we're going to be facing this grid collapse for a long time. So yeah, decentralization is one of the major solution to all of these problems.
It's been said that by the GENCOs that it's not always about the lack of production capacity in terms of the megawatts. For instance, we're told that in 2015, they had 6,616 megawatts available. Out of that, 3,606 was taken, and 3,010 megawatts was stranded, wasn't taken. They also said that, for instance, there was, so we have this. You have 7,040 megawatts, an average of that, of which 3,212 megawatts was utilized, even a stranded amount of 3,828. So what accounts for this? That Nigeria produces more electricity than it's actually giving its citizens, but they're not able to take this up, and you have some stranded.
Sure. So again, the stranded power, all right, comes from the problem of the transmission network. So I've talked about the part one, which is the gas problem. Now we move to the transmission network. The transmission network have got obsolete, they're obsolete. So they've been there for a long time, and little or no investment has gone into that upgrade. They constantly need to upgrade the system to make it robust, to be able to take the power that is being generated by Genco. Is called the wheeling capacity. The wheeling capacity of the TCN is badly, it's not put together, in a fair way, put it that way. It's not put together, and then the powers become stranded. The generation capacity becomes stranded. You cannot wheel it to distribution company. Of course, some distribution companies are also rejecting power. They're rejecting power because they're rejecting to take the power that's available because they cannot distribute it. Again, there's the distribution systems are obsolete.
So transmission network is not been upgraded to meet current
demand.
No,
it's not.
And
exactly.
then we have to let go of what we
it's
produce.
Stranded. We can't even wheel it to. You can't wheel the maximum power that's available to the distribution company. The transmission company is responsible. Is the most, you put it like that. Is a central value. Is the central provider of the services in the value chain. So anything that affects transmission company affects the whole. And government has refused to relinquish that one. Of course, it's still centralized. It's centralized.
Okay, but we also know that, if we're talking progression and making progress, countries have moved beyond the hydroelectric power plant and the thermal power plant, and for us, we're very dependent on this. Shouldn't we be discussing having state harnessing resources, looking at those states that can produce coal to harness it?
Yes.
And we begin to look at coal. Plants, coal power plants. Plants that will be, powered by coal at this point in time. Should we not be thinking forward in this direction?
Well, you've got a good point, but it's going to be a bit difficult. The reason for that is the world at large is moving beyond fossil fuel generation and is going to green energy. All right, so raising funding for those type of power generation may be difficult because there's not a lot of funding for that. But of course, yes, I'm an advocate for however we can get out of this situation, we should exploit every possible methods that can get us out of the situation. So if you have coal, I know some countries now are doing, they're firing the power plants with green coal, the coal that are environmental friendly. We can look at that. We can look at hydropower. We can look at renewable energy, solar power. But again, it boils down to decentralizing this power. You cannot, even if you have coal power or you have solar power, you cannot put it on the grid because the grid is not reliable. The grid is obsolete and cannot even take additional generation. So it needs to be decentralized. Your point is, if it's in Enugu has coal, can we now look out to make power generation in Enugu with coal?
The current constitutional amendment processes has actually now, they passed that to allow for states to generate.
Yes. So it would be brilliant if that becomes implemented, because another thing for us is speaking good English and passing laws that never gets implemented in the country.
But the system and the framework, we've not upgraded it to even meet current reality.
No, we haven't. But I must say, like, for example, some states that are already making moves, like Lagos State, for example. There are a couple of the ancillaries, the public utilities that are powered by independent power companies through your maybe compressed natural gas and whatnot. I'm supposed to be in New York next few days. But, the state government is looking at powering their secretariat with gas. I was just with the commissioner a few days ago. So there are a lot of states are beginning to look at.
You have gas pipelines crisscrossing River State.
You do.
And I know one of the major international companies has pipelines. Have gas to be able to supply to some private institutions.
Yeah, you have gas in Lagos. You have gas pipelines in Lagos.
On the ground.
On the ground. They're all on the ground. You have gas pipeline that's come to VI. So these things are. It's just a crazy, excuse my word, a terrible situation right now, and I hope that we'll get there someday. There's a lot of intervention going on in the power sector. For example, according to the special advisor to the president, Ahmad Zakari, we need $41 billion to improve power supply in Nigeria.
So, but looking at in the interim now, the fact that you have this collapse, because this is our reality, and we need to get out of it. What would you be suggesting? We know that the government and stakeholders are already having the emergency and marathon meetings, but we don't know, I mean, because it would not be the first time that these meetings are being held. Is the outcome, what happens, but what can be done? Is there anything that can be done in the meantime to salvage the situation? Yes, we know that the major issue is the fact that you know, the power plants are centralized, and that's not helping any issue, but what can be done at this point in time as solution?
Mercy, thank you so much. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a fire brigade approach. You cannot have this solved immediately within the next 6 months to 1 year. We need strategic decisions to be made. One of them is the regulatory framework, and I'm glad Kofi did mention law has been passed by state government to be able to generate their power. I need to check that out very well. That is one. NERC, Nigeria Electricity Regulation Company, must be strengthened to be able to really penalize the value chain. Whoever is the weakest link in the value chain must be able to penalize them, all right, strengthen them. Also, the regulatory framework needs to be adhered to, all right? That's one. That's two, right? We've talked about decentralization. We've talked about the regulatory framework. And now we'll talk about investment in the power sector. I know the Nigerian government, I mean, within the last few years, there's a lot going on. There's a Nigerian Economic Sustainability Plan of the federal government, which is currently ongoing at the moment, all right? But of course, we're not going to see that happen really quick. We're not going to see that happen real quick. The development is going to take some time.
All right. The generating companies have been crying of over a debt, 1.634 trillion naira debt, and they've also been crying, asking for the fixing of the national grid, which you've talked about. And hopefully this can be done. Otherwise, like you seem to be saying, we'll continue to have this problem.
Yes.
I want to thank you very much for your time. O'Neill Lajuomi is an energy expert, and he's been our guest this morning on The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. O'Neill, thank you for
Thank you very much.
O'Neill, thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's time to go. Messi's a wrap.
Of course, it's been a fantastic time having this national discussion, the power sector, and also looking at the educational sector. If you missed out on any part of the conversation, it's all right to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. Many thanks for watching. Always, I am Messi Bobo. Have a great day.
And I'm Kofi Bartels. We return tomorrow morning. Keep watching Plus TV Africa. Good morning.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thoughts and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
My name is David Oladimeji Olukemi Mako. a son of Awa Ijebu, Ogun State. Here is my good old days story. I was born in Ibadan at St. Mary's Catholic Hospital, Oluyoro, Okiofa, to the family of Abraham Olukoya, Adeyinka, and my mother, Olabisi, the only child of her mother, was from Iba Imobi in the Ijebu Waterside area of Ogun State. I was raised by maternal grandmother, Madam Odilia Taiwo, Mami Ekotedo. I was a gifted fisherman even before I turned 10 years old. I left the village of Itasin for Ibadan, and I got enrolled at St. Saviour's African Church School, Ekotedo, Ibadan. Ibadan then became my world, where table tennis took all my attention in those growing old days. Traversing the various playing locations like Agbokojo, Racecourse Ibadan, and Liberty Stadium in search of fame and fortune. And as a young boy, I was very rascally and had my fair share of youthful exuberances. Ibadan Grammar School offered me opportunity for both education and sports. The school tempered my deviance, and the boarding house provided me enough activities to refocus for the future. Sincerely, for me then, no real role models beyond peer group influence. I had friends who were very studious. I tagged along, and I was better for it. Oliver Baptist High School, Oyo, and University of Ibadan provided enough experiences that shaped my life and contributed largely to my modest accomplishments in life. Of course, Lagos State welcomed me after my National Youth Service year, and since then, there was no looking back. I must admit that Lagos remains a land of opportunities and a great state for those who dream and labor. As I take a look back and mirror into the past, I saw exciting and memorable moments. Moments where the economy seems to be working. Moments where security was not a major issue on the front burner. Moments where communal spirits were high and trust issues were no challenges. So I wondered, where did we get it wrong? Will our children believe us when we say we had so much fun in those days? I appreciate how far this country has come from a population of 45 million in 1960 to 200 million plus today. Within the same land space, we need to now begin to be positive in our response to Nigeria. Our challenge now is to focus on how we can change the narrative. How, instead of talking about good old days, be projecting into a future that is greater than our past. I am an accomplice and partner in this drive and desire to make our tomorrow better than our today. Shemore, I'm with you all the way in this journey. God bless our nation. God bless Nigeria.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plusttvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
There is no voting on social media. To vote, you would require permanent voter's card. To get your PVC, visit cvr.inecnigeria.org. Create your account with a valid email address and start the registration process. An activation link will be sent to you. Click on the link and activate your account. Fill out the form, pick and submit a convenient date and time for your biometrics. Print the application slip, which should have your QR code. On the appointed date, go to the nearest INEC office for your biometric capturing. Thereafter, you will get a registration slip to pick your permanent voter's card when ready. Get your PVC today. This message is from PlusTvAfrica.
Good morning, I am Justin Akadonye, and this is the news brief on Plus TV Africa. Now, the Parent Teachers Association of Nigeria, PT, has appealed to the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, to resolve the issues leading to the strike so that students can go back to school as a matter of urgency. The PTA National President Danjuma Haruna said an additional 2 months would have devastating implications on the education sector. He called on both ASU and representatives of the federal government to go back to the dialogue table and resolve their problems, adding that not every parent in the country can afford to take his child abroad or to a private university for studies. Now, the Minister of Power, Abubakar Aliyu, is holding an emergency meeting with stakeholders in the sector. The meeting is said to be about low power generation, which has caused epileptic supply across the country. In recent weeks, Nigerians have been feeling the pain of fuel scarcity and erratic power supply. On Monday, the national grid collapsed, causing blackout across the country. The meeting had in attendance a delegation from power generation companies, Transmission Company of Nigeria TCN, Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading NBET, Niger Delta Power Holding Company NDPHC, Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited NNPC, Shell and other stakeholders in the power value chain. Aliyu told stakeholders that they must work together to make electricity stable. According to him, the meeting will find solutions to all challenges affecting power generation in the country. Now, airline operators in Nigeria say they are given 3 days notice to shut down operations over lack of aviation fuel, as this was the outcome of a meeting rescheduled by the House of Representatives, oil marketers and airline operators on shortage and hike of aviation fuel. Speaking before the special committee, the representative of the airline operators and the chief executive officer of Air Peace, Alan Onyema, said they can no longer afford the product anymore and will be forced to shut down. On his part, the group managing director of the NNPC, Mele Kiari, said that at the moment, 19 oil companies are in possession of 88 million liters of aviation fuel in the country, assuring that the NNPC will do everything possible in ensuring that the scarcity is resolved for the overall interest of Nigerians.
Also, we agreed that in the interim, between now and the 3 days that they will close the basis of pricing, because the lowest we have seen as at this morning is 445, and another high of 605. There's a trader that is selling at 630. We don't think this is normal, and therefore we discounted it. So without any science around it or logic, and let me emphasize, we agreed that they will sell it for the next 3 days at 500 naira to the liter, and on day 3 or day 4, they will switch to the new formula that everyone can access and can compute. And lastly, as requested by the Airline Operators Association of Nigeria, they will be granted license by the authority to import petroleum products, particularly ATK, so that they can have a way of benchmarking the sales from other customers they can also bring in cheaper product whenever it is possible.
We thank you. We thank the public. And even though at 500, our unit cost per seat, now we come down to about 85,000. If we remain at 500, unit cost per seat for a 110-seater aircraft. That is the truth. Bearing, insurance and other things. That is our pain. I wish we could buy this fuel at 200 so that Nigerian passengers and everyone will be able to afford flying. That is our predicament. So the public should understand if there is a shift from what they are paying now and what they are going to pay soon. Because it's open here about what is happening. Anybody can calculate it.
The last thing I think any marketer wants is to create a situation where the general public have to pay hand over fist or over and beyond what the going rate for any product is. I think the resolution that we reached today is one that's amiable, and we look forward to working with our colleagues in the aviation sector so that we continue to deliver cost-efficient fuel.
We have a basis and the baseline for us to work. Speaking about the minds of Nigerians, what they want and what will happen, and today it has happened. It's the positive side of it. Thank you very much. We'll make our report available by the grace of God as early as tomorrow for plenary for them to consider. We thank you for this very wonderful opportunity, and we thank God above all for the life, good health He has given us, and the direction He has given us to solve this matter.
The governor of Yobe State, Mimala Boni, and his secretary, James Akpan Odoedehe, will email the leaders of the All Progressives Congress, APC, if the party wants to hold its convention on the 26th of March. Now, that was the position of the chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council of Nigeria, IPAC, aka the state chapter, Ifedayo Iyaniwura, earlier on Plus Politics. He added that the correct procedure to change the leadership of the party was not duly followed.
The ball is in the party's court. If the party is willing to conduct a party convention this very month. First, let's see what the law says. In Section 82, subsection 1 of Electoral Act 2022, the law requires at least 21 days notice of any convention, congress, conference, or meeting convened for the purpose of merger or electing members of its executive committees, other governing bodies, or nominating candidates for any elected offices. Meanwhile, in respect of the APC proposed March 26 National Convention, there was already a notification letter in that regard written to INEC by Buni-led caretaker committee of the party, which of course needs the 21 days notice as required by the law. So if they are working with that direction, then the party can still, with position of the law, go ahead with the National Convention in this month of March. But however, of recent we heard about the plans of some leaders in the said party to replace the governor of Yobe State, Buni, with that of his Niger State counterpart, Abubakar Sani Bello, as the party's caretaker chairman. This is according to asseverations of Governor Rufai on Channels Television. Remember I said the ball is in their courts. Any attempt to go by this direction, no matter how smart the party leadership is, we hold the chance of APC to conduct this party national congress as planned in this month of March. Our precious democracy, our dear electoral process must not be bastardized. If APC leadership wants it to work well, then they must get themselves enlightened and stop being benefited.
Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, indicated the state has released a list of 16 governorship candidates and their running mates eligible for the governorship election scheduled for June the 18th. A statement signed by the National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, said the publication of names of candidates was in compliance with the Electoral Act. The Commission, which restated that the deadline given to political parties to file their nominations has since elapsed, urged any party that observes that the name of its candidate is missing from the list should notify the Commission in writing, signed by its national chairman and secretary, supported with an affidavit not later than 90 days to the election. Staying with election matters, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says fresh registration in the ongoing nationwide continuous voter registration CVR has hit over 7 million as at 7 a.m. on March the 14th. The Commission, in the Q3 Week 10 update released on Monday, also disclosed that the registrants who had completed the registration was over 4 million, out of which over 1.6 million were done online and over 2.3 million physical. Now, the update also disclosed that of registrants who completed their registration, over 2 million were male, while about 1.9 were female. 1.9 million were female, while 33,985 were people living with disabilities. INEC also disclosed that it had received a total of over 12 million applications, including those requesting for voter transfer, requests for replacement of permanent voter cards, and update of voter information record. Away from all of that, now the Nigeria police force has described as fake and mischievous claims of purported plans by its personnel to embark on strike. The police made the clarification in a statement by the acting force public relations officer, CSP Olumuyiwa Adejobi. He said the claims circulating in some social media handles and planned by some personnel of the force to embark on strike from March the 26th was a mischievous attempt by unscrupulous individuals. Adejobi said the claims was to bring the force to disrepute, misinform the public, and heat up the polity. He said the Inspector General of Police Usman Baba was accelerating efforts to ensure full implementation of the increment of salaries and allowances proposed by President Muhammadu Buhari and approved by the Federal Executive Council. Now, the Nigerian Association of Women Journalists, NAWOJ, Kaduna State Chapter, has called for an end to domestic violence and abuses against women, saying it is one of the major challenges facing moral upbringing in the society and the nation at large. They lent their voices following the increased rate of abuses and maltreatment against the female gender, leading to divorce, single motherhood, and wife battering. Our correspondent Habila Darafai's report was presented from our studios.
Over the years, women tend to be the main victims of abuse in marriage and the workplace as it affects their psychological, emotional, and physical feeling. Women activist and author of Despised Treasure, Ruth Goodwin, says, women are priceless treasures that must be cherished by all, and that the alarming rate of domestic violence leading to spousal killing needs to be urgently addressed.
As a girl child growing in Nigeria and Africa, I've seen the plight of women in Nigeria and Africa. We, the women, are supposed to be treasured in our society because we have a lot of potentials. We are full with a lot of potentials. Like I said, we have gold in our prosperity in our womb, gold in our heart, and also riches in our hands. But our society seems not to realize that, and they allow it to waste.
Chairperson, National Association of Women Journalists, NAWOJ, Kaduna State Chapter, Comrade Fatima Aliyu, says the aim of the gathering is to create awareness on the plight of women and provide solutions. She urged those involved in domestic violence to always speak out.
My call to them is, at least they've started making a move by giving us 35% the bill that has been signed, that women should be given 35%. Once they are giving us this, then women's plight, women's anger will be reduced drastically.
Also, Justice Binta Zubairu of the Kaduna High Court says women are suffering silently because of their financial incapacitation, cultural prejudice, and the fear of what society may say.
You know, marriage certificate is not the path to heaven. It's not. I swear it's not. If you're in a relationship that you are not happy, they are battering you, they are making you ill, you walk out of it. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying marriage is bad. Marriage is good because God Almighty has ordained marriage. And without marriage, there won't be this procreation, there won't be generations. But where you are in a relationship, you are being abused, you are not happy, they are running you crazy, I think you leave. The earlier the better you leave.
It was a sober moment for women as some victims of gender violence shared experiences.
The abusers, physically, emotionally. The man I had those children for treated me the worst possible way. Drugs, you can come out of it. You are not born with drugs. If you are addicted to sleeping with men, you can actually come out of it. You are not born like that. And I decided to make a U-turn. And today, this is where I am.
They called on the federal government and private organizations to use their various platforms to condemn the spate of domestic violence by promoting peaceful coexistence, especially among couples.
Now, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, has charged Nigerian youths on the proper use of the social media. Gbajabiamila made the call at the 2022 Commonwealth Day celebration in Abuja titled Delivering a Common Future, organized by the management of the National Assembly. The Speaker admonished youths to improve themselves in order to be responsible citizens that would contribute to nation building.
You must use the various social media platforms to learn and improve yourselves in order to be responsible citizens that will contribute to nation building. As future leaders, the future begins now, and you must avail yourselves of these rare opportunities to play responsible roles in your immediate environment.
In these testing times, it is my hope that you can draw strength and inspiration from what we share as we work together towards a healthy, sustainable, and prosperous future for all.
All we need is now that the Commonwealth should help us come to our schools, tell us as the students that this is how we're going to build our future. Because if they don't come to the nations and the countries, it all dies in their own arena. It doesn't come to the future generation.
The Commonwealth can achieve its goals through protecting its natural resources, good governance, as well as boosting trade.
On Street Views, Nigerians narrate their ordeals with online banking. Take a listen.
Some people will borrow money from them. They will lure you that the money you are going to pay is 100,000, that you are going to pay 105,000. At the end of the day, if you default once, they can start charging you exorbitantly. Before you know, they say the one you paid already has gone. So the government they were not proactive at all. They were just reactive over the matter. And they have allowed people to get into it before it goes them. Who gave these people licenses? Where did they get the licenses from? How did they start to operate? In the first instance, again, even if they are operating, where was their source of money? Not by selling them off. Let us know the source of money.
We are having challenge of you borrow loan, let's assume you have to repay back in a month's time. If you don't pay back, they will start tracing your contact and start telling how fraudster you are and the rest. It's a very bad experience.
I think most of them need to shut down because if someone asks for a loan, the necessary thing for you to do is ask for their details. If anybody is used as a guarantor, you need to find out who that person is, their details, and confirm if they are willing to be a guarantor for whoever is asking for the loan. Because I just got a text message now. He said Rafiat Ali. I don't even know who that person is.
I have bitter experience about them because there was a time somebody borrowed loan. A friend of mine borrowed loan from one of those banks. I won't mention name for now. So I was not called before he borrowed the loan. I was not informed. There was no. I just got a text one day that a friend, somebody borrowed loan from me using my name, my phone number, my name as a guarantor. And a text that was on code 40 was sent to me that using as a guarantor that I should try to look for such people, such person. So I have to start calling the friend, and his number is not going to. And most times they use number that you can't reach out to again. So it's something, online loan is something good, but the way it is being handled, the way it is being done, it's not ethical. It's not.
To other parts of Africa now, the Republic of Chad has handed over the leader of an anti-Balaka armed group, Maxime Mokom, to the International Criminal Court (ICC) on suspicion of war crimes and crimes against humanity. In a statement, the ICC said Mokom is suspected of war crimes and crimes against humanity allegedly committed in Bangui and other locations in the Central African Republic in 2013 and 2014. The country was plunged into its worst crisis since independence after longtime Christian leader Francois Bozizé was ousted by rebels from the Seleka force in March 2013. Triggering a wave of violence with anti-Balaka militias. Now, the CAR is one of the world's economically disadvantaged countries, despite its rich natural resources, with a history of unrest since independence from France, including the despotic rule of self-proclaimed Emperor Jean-Bédel Bokassa in the 1960s and 70s. At least 53 people have died in western Ethiopia after an unidentified armed group attacked a civilian convoy and its military escort in a region plagued by ethnic violence. A rights body appointed by the government says 20 soldiers and 3 victims were killed in the ambush. 30 attackers died during the day-long gun battle that followed, while 11 more people were killed the following day, including one who was burnt alive. As security forces rounded up suspects and carried out summary killing. Military uniforms used a stick to poke a man back onto a burning pile of bodies after he tried to escape. In outside Africa now, a projectile has been seen over Kiev's skyline, followed by a bright light and audible blasts. As the scene returned to silence just after 0500 local time, the sound of car alarms could be heard. It could not immediately be ascertained whether the blast was caused by ordnance hitting its target or from a successful interception made by air defenses. Moscow has not captured any of Ukraine's 10 biggest cities since beginning its incursion on February the 24th, the most significant attack on a European state since World War II. In Kyiv, an apartment block was hit by a missile on Monday, killing at least one person. Now, China has posted a steep jump in daily COVID-19 infections, with new cases more than doubling from a day earlier to a 2-year high, as the virus outbreak expanded rapidly in the country's northeast. The National Health Commission said a total of 3,507 domestically transmitted cases with confirmed symptoms were reported on Monday across more than a dozen provinces and municipalities, up from 1,337 a day earlier. Now, China's caseload is still tiny by global standards, but health experts said the rate of increase in daily cases over the next few weeks will be a crucial factor in determining whether its tough dynamic clearance approach, which aims to contain each outbreak, is still effective against the rapidly spreading Omicron variant. Still on the raw or Russian-Ukraine crisis, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has sounded the alarm over Russia raising the alert level for its nuclear forces after invading Ukraine, describing it as a bone-chilling development. Guterres said the prospect of nuclear conflict, once unthinkable, is now back within the realm of possibility, and also repeated his call for an immediate cessation of hostilities. Guterres, who called for the preservation of the security and safety of nuclear facilities after a fire at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine, said the UN was going to allocate a further $40 million from its Central Emergency Response Fund to ramp up humanitarian assistance for Ukraine.
Ukraine is on fire. The country is being decimated before the eyes of the world. The impact on civilians is reaching terrifying proportions. And with each passing hour, 2 things are increasingly clear. First, it keeps getting worse. Second, whatever the outcome, this war will have no winners, only losers. As millions of people in Ukraine face hunger and dwindling supplies of water and medicine, I'm announcing today that the United Nations will allocate a further $40 million from the Central Emergency Response Fund to ramp up vital assistance to reach the most vulnerable as we wait for the nations to come. This funding will help get critical supplies of food, water, medicines, and other life-saving aid into the country, as well as provide cash assistance to the needy.
And that's as much as we have time for on the news brief. For more stories, please follow us at PlusTvAfrica on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Justin Akadonye. Many thanks for watching. Plus Sport is up next.
There is no voting on social media. To vote, you would require a permanent voter's card. To get your PVC, visit cvr.inecnigeria.org. Create your account with a valid email address and start the registration process. An activation link will be sent to you. Click on the link and activate your account. Fill out the form, pick and submit a